Hi, good afternoon, everyone. This is Neha Agarwal. I head Alliances and Partner Ecosystem at CMS IT Services. I welcome you all on behalf of Automation Anywhere and CMS IT Services for this exclusive webinar on embracing automation in procurement. I take this opportunity to thank you all for taking out time. These are tough times. Many of your family and friends are impacted by COVID-19, but we really appreciate of you taking out time and being with us. We will try and deliver maximum value to you in these 60 minutes. To get the maximum value of this time, let me set a few ground rules. All of you who have joined in are by default on mute. If you have any question, please put it in the chat box or please raise your hand. Moderator will reach out to you and we will take Q&A at the end of the session. Now that we have set the ground rules, I will give you a little context. I have been in IT sales for 20 years. And in all these 20 years, one thing that has remained constant is my interaction with procurement teams of various organizations. And what I have seen that, procurement function has become very, very strategic. It is the winning edge any organization can have. But the procurement function has become very, very complex in last few decades. And to top it all, we have COVID-19, which has made the whole thing even more complex. We have challenges like higher pricing, demand and supply shortage. There are availability issues. Managing vendors, managing their payments virtually has become extremely difficult. And to top it all, there is lack of transparency. And how do you make business more sustainable? COVID-19 has put questions around all this. And the good news is most of these challenges can be solved by automation. In fact, we can have a whole new procurement organization just by automation. And why only these challenges? We can do a lot of new things using automation. And our first speaker for today, Mr. Mukherjee, who is the department head of digital technologies at CMS IT Services, would be talking about it. He is a very well-known name in the VC world. He is a tech evangelist, and he is going to share his ideas on this topic. And one fun fact I want to share about Hirak, don't go by his appearance. He's extremely agile, he's extremely fast, and he's very good at keeping secrets. What he's going to present, he has not even told me. And I am a curious cat. If something comes to my notice, I want to know it. And since yesterday, I have been asking him that what is it that you're going to present? Even 1 hour back, I called him and he said, no, you wait for the event. So over to you, Hirak. I am very curious to know what are you going to present?
Thanks, Neha. Obviously, she doesn't like my appearance, so she says, don't go by my appearance. But thank you very much. And tough times, really tough times. Just praying to the Almighty that everybody is safe and healthy. And this too shall pass. So yes, coming back to the session, I wanted to talk about 2-3 things on logistics and global supply chain. From the research I had done, I wanted to talk about things like dark purchasing or consumer trends, cognitive workloads, legislation and geopolitical shifts. Some of these things I wanted to touch upon because these are at the very leading edge for global supply chain and logistics profession. Okay, but interestingly, yesterday when I was kind of going through some of these and collecting my thoughts, my mind started wandering as it often does for a whole lot of us. And there are 3 things which I started thinking about. One was last year during the entire COVID period, I was doing a M&A deal, a mergers and acquisition deal for a pharmaceutical API company, active pharma ingredients company. As you may know, that APIs go into making formulation drugs, and the company was up for sale. I was trying to sell that company. And while doing that, one of the things which I saw was that 70% of the raw material which gets into API is all imported from China. And given the situation in China, uh, somebody's saying not able to hear. Am I not audible?
Yeah, maybe you can just put your little
okay.
louder.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Sure. I'll just hold this mic close.
Yeah.
So yeah, sorry. So as I was saying that 70% of all raw materials for API is imported from China, and given the COVID-19 situation and then the border dispute with China, that supply chain got badly impacted. And I was aware of a lot of pharmaceutical companies who were hurriedly trying to create API supply chains, building API manufacturing plants, etc. That was one thought which came to my mind. Second thought which came to my mind was about the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccine. And when it was created, given the cold chain logistics required of minus 70 degrees Celsius, etc., clearly it wasn't an option available to a country like India. And therefore, one large vaccine opportunity was not available. And the third thought which came to me is, of course, from this very, very unfortunate situation about the oxygen situation in our country, where though we know that there is enough and more oxygen available within the country, yet our logistics does not permit us to do anything with it, and people are dying around the country for the want of oxygen. In my graduate days of studying physics, cryogens and cryogenics was one of my interest areas, and obviously it continues to be a challenge because cryogenic logistics isn't in place. And when my mind wandered into these areas, I decided that I do not want to actually talk about those dark purchasing and the challenges issues, frontline issues of global logistics. Whereas I want to turn this around, and instead of doing a keynote, I'd like to pose a challenge, uh, because this panel is quite eminent, and not just the panel, even the participants. And if all of you have chosen logistics and global supply chain as your career aspirations, then this problem lies on your table as well. And I would like to challenge you, and to some extent provoke your thinking, to come up with some ideas directionally, may not be solutions, but at least directionally some ideas as to how do you build the next generation supply chain and logistics for emerging challenges. Uh, the novel coronavirus, COVID-19, SARS-CoV-2 may go away, but novel coronaviruses will not go away. Whether it's from bats to pangolin to humans, bats to snakes to humans, camels to humans, or even monkeys to humans in the case of Ebola. Uh, Zoonotic viral infections are there to stay. There are more than 1 million such viruses in the zoological nature. We just know about 100 odd of them. The balance we still do not know. So novel coronaviruses will be there in the future. Other forms of drug delivery and pharmaceutical requirements are going to be there. And therefore, they are going to be the emerging challenges for supply chain and logistics. And I would like to pose this question to you, Sunil, and your eminent panelists, pose it as a challenge, kind of provoke their thinking. If you find time, do think about it. If not in this forum, maybe the marketing team, Tom and others can set up an idea board. People can share their ideas to see what can be done. There's nothing much we can do for the current situation because it's here and now. But at least for the future, we can put in some thoughts and prepare the world for it. So that's all I wanted to do. Instead of giving a keynote, I wanted to pose this question and see if all of us could learn something from the discussion. I'm sorry if I've disrupted your plan, Sunil, for the entire panel. But if you do find time, I'll be extremely glad if you can spend maybe a few minutes with all the panelists on this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hirak. And I think the answer to why you didn't let the cat out of the bag for so late in your about your session topic is now clear to many of us. So you wanted to pose a challenge in this, and I think the panel we will accept the challenge. I'll request the panelists. There is this session with which Yash is going to have immediately after this, and in the meanwhile, if you'd like to accept this challenge, let's take it as the third session, third theme that we'll discuss today. Thank you, Hirak, and over to you, Neha. Yeah.
Thank you, Hirak. Thank you, Sunil. Hirak, I got my answers. Thank you so much. With that, can we have the first poll question, please? Yeah, I request everybody to please participate. This is our first poll question, and it will really help us in deciding the pace of the session, and it will give us some very insightful pointers in your journey.
While the participants are answering the poll, I'll request Yashpal not to throw a challenge at the panel because there won't be enough time to take that challenge also.
Rest assured.
Okay.
So as everybody is filling up the poll question, I would want to introduce our next speaker. He is Mr. Yashpal Negi. He is the channels director at Automation Anywhere. He and Hirak share the same pedigree. Both have worked together in IBM, and Yash has been instrumental in designing and bringing to life the entire partner strategy at Automation Anywhere. And today I've taken a little different approach, and I'm sharing one fun fact about every person, and it brings a little bit of personal connect. So Yash really likes traveling. He's very passionate about driving, and this COVID-19 has disrupted his plans also. He really wanted to travel quite a bit, but he, like all of us, he's locked in his house, and all his travel plans are waiting for COVID-19 to be over. So, Yash, the stage is all yours, but you will have to give me a minute for me to publish the poll results.
Sure, absolutely. I'll
Can
hang
we
in
get
there.
the poll results, please? Yeah, so Yash, we have some very interesting results here. Most of the people are either planning and experimenting or evaluating the technology, and 26% people are scaling their RPA setup. So most of the people are actually aware of the concept, and they have started their RPA journey.
Yeah. I could see that. So almost like 47% of the participants are aware of RPA and its advantage. So my work becomes so much more easier. Yeah.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
yeah. So sure. All right. Okay. So just give me a second while I put up my slide. I hope I'm audible.
Yes.
Let me know once you're able to see it. So it's you're able to see the slides, right?
Yes, we can see.
All right. Okay. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Neha, for setting it up for me. And thanks, Hirak. Trust me, your surprise indeed caught me also off guard. And I'm a bit intrigued. How do I start my piece of presentation? But anyway, since Neha said I'm from Automation Anywhere, that's my job to talk about Automation Anywhere. And that's what I intend to do in next 15 odd minutes that I have it for me. So once again, thanks, Hirak, and good afternoon, everybody. My name is Yashpal Negi, and I'm Director of Strategic Partnerships at Automation Anywhere. It's indeed our privilege to have you and with us here today, and we sincerely thank you for taking this time out for this session. I'm just hoping and praying that all your near and dear ones are doing great. They are all safe, and I hope this will also pass out. Well, today, as the topic suggests, we are going to talk about automation and more specifically around procurement, right? And with the guidance of eminent panelists, we'll also talk about some of the areas that we could really look at automation, some other challenges that may come during that, right? But if you personally ask me, for me, both RPA and procurement are conceptually, they bring in the same value to any organization, right? They both have phenomenal potential around savings. They both have phenomenal potential around bringing in ROI, bringing in a lot more transparency in the entire procurement process, right? And that's what we'll cover the benefits of RPA in the next couple of slides. Uh, we are the undisputed global leader. That's a very strong statement, right? But our data speaks for themselves, right? We have worked very hard over last 16 plus years to build the foundation necessary to become the world's first and most widely deployed digital workforce platform. It is a vision to liberate humans from the mundane and repetitive tasks and allow them more time to use their intellect and creativity to solve some larger problems for the organizations. We see a world where their employee will work side by side with the digital workers, taking the robots out of the humans and making them exponentially more productive in whatever they do. Our employees and partners are committed to deliver value to our 4,250 plus enterprise accounts globally, and with almost 2.8 million plus digital workers deployed, we are committed to deliver supreme customer experience and value to all of them. We have a strong, vibrant community of 1 million plus who are skilled and ready to support any global business challenge because that's key. And some financial fact out there. As of November 2019, which is almost like 18 months from now, back now, we raised about close to $280 million, and which valued us at $6.8 billion as a company. The company is well supported by some of the leading marquee investors such as SoftBank Investments Advisors, Goldman Sachs, Salesforce, New Enterprise Associates, and others. And on the right of the slide, you could see a number of researchers who have been rating us extremely high in their respective surveys. Right? In fact, if you look at the Gartner's report, the recent Gartner report which was released, we were rated as leaders in the innovation customer satisfaction area. Right? So why is it that most of the researchers are talking about? Why is it that most of the leading financial investors are really interested in RPA and automation anywhere as a company? So we must be doing something very different, right? And here it is. So as I said, so why are we getting all this accolades, right? So we are the only automation vendor globally to have invested in a superior architecture and platform, which is truly agile, scalable, and enterprise-wide, right? We provide a single platform, great user experience, and enterprise-grade cloud architecture. What I essentially trying to say is, and that's what our customer keeps telling us. We provide an integrated platform to take advantage of all our compelling product innovations, right? So be it a cloud-native approach or being our product being a web-based or it's an AI-powered platform, which is really enabling our customers to discover, digitize, automate, and help optimize process, right? Very strong value propositions. In fact, we are one of the first one who are offering our platform on cloud, which is a truly cloud-native platform and web-based, right? Since the product is web-based, so it is easy for anybody to set it up. You really don't have to worry about setting up the infrastructure, doing the installations, and thereafter you start the development cycle, right? In our case, you just get the URL, you log in with your secured login credential, and there you go. It's all pre-built, right? We focus a lot on UI, right? And it's ease of use for the employee who are going to use it. It makes the citizen developer model, our customers, a positive way of moving forward. A360, as I said, it's available on-premise and cloud. The architecture is modern, microservices based, which essentially means you can really scale it fast. You can upscale, downscale, and so on and so forth. So that's what we have tried to accommodate. and it's a cloud native platform, all right, which really helps you lower the overall TCO by almost 21 to 27%. It's an extensible architecture, right, that enables you to access a rich technology of ecosystem, which allows you. We have ready-made plugins, we have ready-made APIs available with a lot of third-party global technology firms such as Salesforce, be it the AI platform, Yellow Messengers, and so on and so forth. Right? So how do we do that? How do we ensure that we achieve what we aspire to achieve, right? So because automation cannot be a particular individual's priority, it cannot be a departmental priority. How do we ensure that it becomes enterprise-wide priority? How do we ensure that we are able to take most of the different departments in this journey of transformation? Right? So automation democratization. This is what I mean by saying, how do we really ensure we take everybody on board when we start the automation journey, right? So today, if you are to really plan your enterprise-wide automation, right, it requires much more than just an RPA team, right? It isn't just about setting up a core developer team, talking about a particular department, but talking about a particular processes and automate it, right? You need to have sponsor in every function, every line of business. You need to empower citizen developers. You need to empower a lot of business users from the other departments, right, who are able to build automation on their own, right? And I'll come to that. How do we really address some of those issues, right? Because unless and until you do that, your ability to transform at scale will always be delayed and challenged. You perhaps will not be able to achieve the scale that you aspire to achieve, right? So it's very critical, and this is what we see in most of the organization. Unless and until you have sponsors in multiple business functions, it's not a very sustainable and scalable initiative, right? And as I said, how do we do it? With our RE offering, which is essentially automation anywhere robotic interface, we are helping a lot of organizations to create a culture of automation with citizen development. With citizen development, what I really mean is all your business users are able to build or automate tasks, have a digital assistant which can really do a lot of mundane stuff for your employee, which are not necessarily an IT. And how do we really ensure that they're able to do that, right? Because once we do that, this would really help them this would really help your core RPA team to focus on something which is more innovative, more strategic for the organization, whereas the business users can really focus on building small bots, small task automation bots to ensure that they are more productive in whatever they do. So what is RE, right? So we talked about RE and how RE is helping achieve automation democratization. It's a no-code solution which essentially targets to provide a bot to every employee. It enables every user to build bots which are easy to use. In short, provide them with a digital assistant. It allows anyone run their own automation right within their everyday work application, right? Now, be it your Microsoft Office or be it G Suites or Salesforce, right? So what it really does is so say for example, if a business user has to toggle between multiple applications, have to log into a CRM or an ERP to fetch some specific data, what you could really do is you could train this RE to really, and once they trigger it, it can go to multiple applications, fetch whatever they would want to do, prepare a report and push it back to the user who are really doing it, right? And we believe when humans and digital workers work side by side, they produce better results, right? Because what we are then able to achieve is we are taking the robots out of the human and giving it to robots which are actually meant for doing that. Yeah. So that's what we have to offer around automation democratization. It's a very important point for a lot of users, a lot of organizations, to ensure that there's a better consumption of automation and scale the automation project at large. So this is just a summary of what we have to offer. As I said, our strongest USP, if I have to really sum up, we provide an integrated platform, but at the same time we have a modular approach, right? And I'll come on that in a bit. It's a cloud native, it's a web based, right? So moving from on-premise to cloud is seamless. You talk to any of the competition available in the market, you have an on-premise environment, you want to move it on cloud, it's not lift and shift, right? You would require a couple of weeks or maybe months effort to really migrate on cloud, right? That's the sort of effort which takes. But in our case, it's all lift and shift, right? So if I had to really sum it up, Automation 360 is a truly integrated platform that transcends from front office to back office technology. It helps silos automate. It helps automate silos application business processes across all these systems, right? So be it your cloud native application or be it your legacy application, it helps you achieve the automation across the application. If you look at the entire phase of automation, typically you'll end up having four stages, right? One is the discovery phase. The second is digitize, the automation, and the optimization piece, right? Uh, because why discovery phase, right? Because what we have recently seen is most of the organizations are now grappling with the issue, like once they have started their automation journey, the question really hits them is what next? Because most of the guys would start something like invoice processing, and then once they have done with that, they say what next, right? And they grapple with this. The question really is not about uh, you know uh, what technology to use, but it's all about what processes you should be really looking at, right? What processes you should be identifying to ensure that you have a continuous pipe of processes which could be automated. So it's a very critical element in the entire transformation project, right? So it's all about discovery. So how are we addressing it? We have announced a discovery bot. What it essentially does, it helps you uncover and document, right? A very important one. Uncover and document the highest ROI automation opportunities. And we can go deeper into it in terms of how we do it, but we can leave it for a separate meeting, and you can reach out to us. We can take you through that. But just to leave at that point, it helps you to identify the processes which are yet uncovered, but has a phenomenal potential of cost saving and give you a better ROI, right? So that's the discovery bots which we have. The second stage is digitize, right? We all have heard about, in fact, dark data. We talked about machine data, unstructured data, and so on and so forth, right? And there is enough and more data to prove that almost 80% of the data is lying outside the machine, right? Which is yet to be consumed by the system. So essentially, what you're really doing is all your intelligence BI is all being done on the 20% of the piece. Now, using our cognitive bots, what you could really do is extract all those data which is there in your document. Now, it could be your purchase orders, it could be your invoice, it could be your mortgage lending document, it could be your KYC, PAN card, whatever you may think, right? So you extract all those data which otherwise would have been required to done manually, and convert into a machine data, which can then be processed at the back end by the RPA, right? Very strong offering, right? The third piece is the automate piece, right? So once you have identified the process, you have extracted all the data, you really need RP at the back end to process all those data, right? Churn all those data to ensure that it's posted at the relevant application and so on and so forth, right? And this is basically the foundation module of the RP as a journey, right? So that's the automate stage. The fourth stage is optimize stage, which essentially is helps you take an accurate pulse on every bot and critical insights on every process to enable data-driven decisions and not biased decision and enhancement with bot insight. Now, bot insight is a product that we have to offer. What it essentially does is, so all the data which is being processed, right? It gives you a complete operational as well as transactional insight, and give you an insight on how the bots have been performing. When so tomorrow, if you were to really put up an ROI to the leadership team, you have all the data, data backed, insights which can be then presented to the leadership team to take the discussion further. Right? Great. So obviously the next question is how do we really start, right? So we have talked about RPA, we talked about automation, democratization. So how do we really start? So if you really ask me, well, honestly, there's no right or wrong approach. And as I could see in the initial pulse that Neha had conducted, survey that Neha had conducted, almost 47% of the participants have already experienced RPA, right? And they are evaluating, some are evaluating, but they are exposed to RPA. So what I'm gonna, just a disclaimer, what I'm gonna talk about is not something is the only way. Perhaps we Indians are known to be very innovative. We might come with some fourth, fifth options as well. But then this is what we think are some of the documented approach which you should be looking at, right? So the first is the Ronald Reagan approach, which is trust but verify. I'm sure a lot of you would know this is a famous proverb which was shared by American scholar to Ronald Reagan while dealing with Russians, right? So he had forewarned him saying, you deal with them, but you need to uh, you know trust them before you could really start dealing with them, right? So in this approach, what you essentially do in a digital transformation journey, you pick up a single department or pick up a few processes. Now, these processes should have the propensity to deliver higher ROI. Now, this could be a tricky situation, right? Because how would you really identify those processes which can really deliver you an higher ROI? And that's where the discovery bot come into the play, right? So don't go old hog. Pick a few of the processes, few departments, try, test it out, get the desired ROI, what you want, and then go, expand it, right? The second is the Barack Obama approach, which is yes, we can. And I'm sure, again, a lot of you would remember this was the famous electioneering campaign by Barack Obama. In this approach, what you could really do is you could start with a vision of to enable, say, for example, 10, 20, 30% of the knowledge workers to help them digitally, right? So what I'm essentially trying to say is you can start with a vision of saying, I will enable 10% of my knowledge workforce digitally, which means I will provide them a digital assistant. Right? So we can look at some of the things such as RE, which can really help you achieve that. Right? The last approach is what we call it as the Martin Luther approach, which is I have a dream, right? It's an all-out approach. It needs a lot of grit. It needs a lot of vision and planning to create, to go for this approach. What it essentially means is you'll plan a digital workforce capacity to augment your future requirement. It's typically spreads over a period of 3 years or 5 years as you want to take it. You plan in terms of, say, for example, depending on the forecast and the planning that I have, this is how I'm gonna augment my current knowledge workers with the additional workforce capacity by adding more digital workforce, right? And this could be linked to your productivity targets. This could be linked to your workload, etc. So pick up, depending on what stage of transformation you are, pick up the right transformation and go be great. Thank you so much. Neha, that's it from my side.
Thank you so much. Yes, you will have to stay with me for a minute or two till we do our next poll. So
Sure.
I want to do this poll with you. Can we have our next poll question, please? I request everybody to please answer the poll question. And yes, still people are answering this poll question. I have a question for you.
Sure.
Out of these three approaches, which approach you have seen, because you have experience and you have worked with so many customers, which approach you have seen working the best, or it depends on the goals of the organization? How do you choose which approach works?
So you're right, Neha. In fact, my answer is in your question. It depends on the vision that a company has, right? How seriously they are looking at digital transformation as a journey. And trust me, if you ask me, RPA is the starting point of any digital transformation. Because unless and until you do RPA, you're actually just scratching the surface. You're really not going deep into multiple RPA. You still have those many manual stuff out there, right? So it's not truly digital transformation. The second part is, if you ask me personally, what I've seen especially in the India market, what I've seen is it's typically the first and the last approach. We have seen a lot of customers, who are looking at experiencing it. A lot of customers who wants to start small and then scale, obviously depending on the ROI and other stuff, right? However, if you look at some of the matured industries, such as the captive segment that we have, or even the financial services, right? They also have seen they adopting the third approach. Right? So they start with a vision and they scale it up. Right? So that's what I see.
Awesome. Can we have the poll results, please?
Okay, yeah, so I'm not surprised. Yeah, but in fact, I'd be curious to know. We can see 100 to 500 bots, which is huge. So I'll be curious to double click on that, and we can do it separately. Because that would be interesting to know what are the processes they have been using and so on and so forth, right? But the rest of the results are in line with what I had in mind. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Yash. It was
my pleasure.
Nice session, and these three quotes I'm carrying with me.
Perfect. I'll request Yash to stay on in the panel for till
sure.
we have the discussion. So during the discussion, if you have anything to contribute.
Sure. Thanks.
Both Yash and Hirok to stay back.
Yeah. Thanks.
So with this, we come to the very interesting part of this session. We have a very exciting panel discussion for you all. And the topic of today's panel discussion is bringing end-to-end visibility and agility to the process, the procurement process with automation. And we have a wonderful panel which consists of Mr. Subroto Ghosh. He is Head of Procurement and Planning at Tata Sky. We have Mr. Amitabh Bhattacharya. He is Head of Strategic Procurement at Tata Steel. We have Mr. Vinay Kumar Srivastava. He is VP Procurement, Real Estate and Admin at Blue Dart. And I have a very, interesting fact to share about Mr. Vinay, that he is a master of tongue twisters, and he has given a speech in which there were 14 tongue twisters and he used all of them. So Sunil, you better be careful. You have quite a task at hand. Then our fourth panelist is Mr. Jaswinder Saini. He's Head Procurement Tata Sky. And then finally, we have Mr. Sunil Menon, who would be moderating this panel. And he heads digital services at CMS IT Services. And he is a marathon runner. He's a fitness freak. He's my very dear friend. And the most amazing thing about him is he has very deep knowledge of Vedas, and whatever I have learned in that space.
Oh, that was that's not a fun fact. I think it's an I don't have a deep knowledge of Vedas, just a hobby. So okay, yeah.
Sunil, over to you. The panel is all yours.
Thank you, Neha, for that rather detailed introduction, and thank you to the earlier speakers, Hirok and Yash, for setting the context so well for us. And I request you to stay back and contribute with your experiences as we go through the panel. So before I start the actual session, I just want to quickly, of course, thank you everybody from the panel for making yourself available to us. We have the best minds of procurement in this panel, and I'm very grateful for that. I just wanted to know that Hirok has thrown a rather challenge at this panel. To my mind, there are a couple of ways to address it. One is that during the course of the themes that we are discussing, maybe you can put in your answer. You can also include your approach to Hirok's challenge in those themes. The second part is second way to do it is also, we have time left after discussing the first two themes. Maybe the third theme can be about Hirok's challenge. So what does the panel have to say? Vinay, Amitabh, and Subroto,
Sunil, you are the boss to decide.
Yeah, but then I would try to give me your ideas about what you think you can best do. Great. I think you can do both. In fact, we can do both. We can also attempt it during the course of your the themes, and also towards the end if you have time. If that's okay with everyone.
Yeah. So yeah.
Sure. Thank you, everyone. So the first theme that I wanted to discuss was that of course the context has been set very well, and Yash had given us a detail about technological enablement in procurement and supply chain. So the first theme that I would like to discuss with this very eminent panel is what are the disruptions that you see in procurement as a strategic function. So I'd like to go one by one to the panelists, but the first question I would like to ask is to Amitabh. Amitabh, I looked at your experience. It's beyond procurement. It's procurement strategy. They're almost covering all the functions of the organization. So how do you look at procurement as a strategic function over the next 18 to 24 months? I'd like you to set the context, and then we'll go to the other panelists. Amitabh, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Sunil. I think pleasure being here and with such eminent speakers today. Thanks for this opportunity. So just to give you, see, procurement it's not that it has started changing very recently. If you see from 99, 2000 onwards for procurement, there's an evolution in the procurement that's going on since we started working with the ERP packages, etc. that came into play. But what has changed in last few years is procurement is not seen now as a service provider, but you are a partner in the business. You have to take that strategic partnership role. By strategic partnership role means, are you owning the business KPIs? Are you owning the KPIs of revenue? Are you owning the KPIs of availability, productivity, quality, kind of, or you are just or procurement is just a trivial tokenism, cost reduction kind of a service function? I think that's the difference that it has got. So if you see the organization in any industry segment that you go, there are people who will the companies who will have a competitive edge will have a very strong procurement, because they leverage procurement both during bad times in the continuity of the operation and keeping their cost at tab, whereas they will actually use the procurement also for value creation. So it's about how much of P&L or an EBITDA impact that you are bringing on the table as a procurement team. I think that's the first and the most important. It's a strategic. You need to be seen as a strategic partner. Second, I think I will touch on the Hirok's point here also. So how much is your procurement in terms of sustainability and the competitive edge advantage it brings in? By competitive advantage, it means de-risking. How much your supply chain or the procurement is de-risked in terms of whether it's a geography, in terms of the supplier, in terms of have you evaluated the criticality of each and everything you procure, and how do you procure, and how you are. So just touching on this, I don't think there was any criticality assessment kind of a thing done for the oxygen and knowing how the supply chain will act in case of, and where are the demand center versus where is the supply centers. We may have oxygen all around. Like I am from Jamshedpur, we are a place where the oxygen is in abundance. We are a steel manufacturing facility out here. But then the oxygen is needed most, I think, in the Mumbai and Delhi. So have you planned in that way, where the supply chain, the resilience of the supply chain is there in times of crisis? Third important thing that's changing in the procurement is your customers are changing. Your customers require, they are no longer your internal customer that you would have earlier taken for granted. Now their expectation of the experience is as high or as good as the external customers. So at every touch point, you need to create a wow factor. So I think that's something which is very important. And there the technology, I think I will touch on the technology in the next question, but I'm touching on this part and more on the strategic thing. So is your maintenance manager or the operation manager or the quality manager or the people in the office, does he have to toggle 10 different screens to get an information that you would like, which is important from the procurement point of view? If that's the case, then it's not. Then it's not what is expected in today's terms. So it's every touch point you need to create that experience. And the last is the agility and the speed at which you actually want the procurement to respond to the business changes, because business requirements are very dynamic. So how do you, and that's something which is very important. I would say all these four things that I have said depends upon your problem solving skills of the procurement team. Second is the data oriented decision making. How much of data oriented decision making is in place? Strategic supplier relationship building. And the fourth and the most critical that will be detailed out and discussed in detail is on the digitalization. How is the digitalization of the all across your procurement value chain is something which is very important. I think I will on the first.
Interesting, and I think you also set the context for what I wanted to ask you next as a question. But what I'm taking away from your short description is that the customer in procurement is changing, and it's becoming a very customer centric kind of procurement. Whether it's an internal customer, his expectations are high, and how that can be addressed using technology and using using technology and using a different approach altogether is something that we have to focus on as procurement professionals. So I'll come back to you. I'll circle back on that point in the next theme that we are doing, Amitabh. So the next question I would like is to go to Vinay. Vinay, now you work in a very different kind of environment, because while you currently work with Blue Dart, you have a lot of experience in supply chain and in your earlier avatars. So you're not dealing just with procurement as an internal customer kind of a scenario, but you're also dealing with purchasing managers of other organizations as an industry. So I'd like you to look at what are the big industry changes that are happening with respect, which you can crystal gaze into the next 18 to 24 months. How procurement is going to change in the next couple of years.
So I would like to elaborate on just one point which Amitabh has mentioned. Though he has very extensively covered all the points and given quite a detailed summary of the entire expectations that were there from your question. And I would just like to touch one point, that is the customer. Now, when we talk about the customer, the wow factor, please understand the customer's requirements or the needs have changed over a period of time. Earlier, when the customer was going to places, buying things, here now the customer is sitting at home. And when I say customer sitting at home, it means my internal customer also. So each and every internal function is working remotely, and I have to cater to their requirements. Now, we are not meeting in physical space. We are not meeting with vendors. We are not meeting with suppliers. And this is where the strategic relationship or the supplier relationship comes to the fore. And we have to understand what is the requirement of the customer, because customer has emerged to be the biggest disruptor in today's time. Their requirements have changed, their expectations have changed, and we have to cater to that. How can we do that? Is purely by being agile. Now, this is a very simple term, but again, when we think of as procurement professionals that we have to adhere to the compliance norms, all the alternate quotations and all those routine mundane things, if we have to think of all those things and still be agile, how can we do that? How can automation contribute towards fulfilling these dreams and still being agile? So our requirements have changed and we are expected to be agile. We are also expected to manage risk. So today, I have to have a very negative mindset when I talk about risk, and very positive mindset when I have to talk about mitigation of risk. Whenever I am thinking about automation,
would you like to elaborate on one or two risks while you're at it? Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, so procurement risk is something, what if? I have to be very negative. Each and every procurement professional, each and every person must have a negative mindset when we think about what if this is going to happen? What if that is going to happen? We can draw a mind map, and through the mind map, we can go to various what if scenario. And these what ifs are going to decide the kind of automation that we need. It is not necessary that each and every organization will need the automation of the biggest order. There are various technologies, there are various kinds of things which are available in the market. Automation that is required depends upon the answers to the procurement risk questions that we have posed to ourselves. What if?
Great. Thanks, Vinay. So I think I'll take this thread to Subroto, because Subroto, apart from being in procurement, is working in a very customer-focused industry, an end customer-focused industry. He is also an expert in risk management with respect to procurement. In his earlier avatar, he's worked extensively on on risk management and trading. So, Subroto, would you like to pick up the thread from Vinay and talk about how risk management and risk management with respect to whether it's respect to price changes or with respect to regulation, how is it that you're looking at it now, and how is it likely to change in the immediate or the medium term future? Would you like to take that up?
Yeah. Thanks, Sunil. So, just one correction. So, I think when Neha introduced me, so I work for Bajaj Consumer Care.
Yes.
My bad then.
That's okay, Neha. So it can. So yeah, coming to the question, Sunil, yes. So I would say, we have been hearing about this term VUCA term for almost many years now, right? And most companies to say actually had a BCP planning. It's a document which is being prepared, signed by the board and everything. Okay. But the first time to realize the importance of BCP is when last year the COVID happened. Okay. Most of the companies initial few months, I think all of us, especially I'm from the FMCG industry, okay, we got impacted the most in the initial first months when we didn't know what is happening, and there was, in spite of having a very robust BCP planning, we realized that things which are happening at that point of time, we didn't even imagine it. Which one side there was a very little score, top line was getting impacted, and imagine your top line getting impacted because you're not able to manufacture product. So there's a demand, okay. We are not able to manufacture it because some of my supplier is down, or his factory is shut and something, okay. So yes, has been a huge learning experience for most, because what happens, I personally believe that in any BCP planning, okay, there's always a cost attached to it, but the moment you talk about a cost, okay, the people understand, okay, let's push it for the time being because it involves cost. Because when you have a very sound BCP planning, you develop alternates, okay, which might come at a very higher cost, but you're going to work on those things, okay, keep them ready, So for example, you might have a vendor, for example, just to take Girak's example, okay, most of the pharma companies in India were dependent on Chinese supplies, okay, because they were cheap. I mean, as simple as that, right? But similarly, we had many of our suppliers who were working with because they were cheap in terms of prices. But what BCP told us, what last year taught us, in spite of that, you have to have backup, which might come at a higher cost, because these are the guys who are going to support you when things will go wrong with other suppliers.
So would you say to that extent that you're better prepared now than you were in 2020 because of the BCP planning that you have done?
Yeah, I think we are better prepared, yes. But this time I would say the challenges are very different from last year. Last year was only about supply chain disruption, okay. But this year, as I speak, okay, there's not only supply chain disruption, but there's a huge inflationary pressure cost. So what has happened, if you just track any commodities in the last 5-6 months, everything is going through the roof right now. Okay, so right now we are in a situation, where it's because of lockdown, most companies getting impacted, okay, because of the top line, okay. On the other side, there's a huge cost pressure because many of the things that we source, the price have almost increased on 40-50% in the last 6-7 months because of supply chain disruption and a lot of other things that is happening in the market. Yeah. So I think that this time the challenges are much bigger than last year.
So now that would say that procurement has become also a risk management function for the organization in the last few years. And so I think our next theme will also cover how procurement is, defining itself in the organization. So I'll request you to hold that thought, and I'll move on to Jaswinder. Jaswinder works with a very already a digital company in many ways, Tata Sky. So we have representation from two Tata companies, one from Tata Steel and one from Tata Sky. So Tata Sky organization, what are the challenges that you face in an already digital organization with respect to supply chain?
Okay.
Hello.
Oh, hello. Am I audible? Hello.
Yes, you're audible.
Okay, I think Sunil is on freeze. Okay, so
So Jaswinder, sorry, I'm back, and I apologize for the disruption. So I was just wondering, what are the challenges that you face in the disruption in as a digital organization, new age organization, Tata Sky?
So I'll give you what we at Tata Sky are doing and where do we stand, and where do I think procurement is going towards, and what are the challenges we are going to face. I think challenges in front of all procurement guys standing today is the inflation and the availability of product components and services. That is a big challenge in front of us as on today because of second wave of COVID. The organizations which are already digitized, which already embarked on digital journey, are much safer. I'll give you example of Tata Sky. We have embarked on the journey of digitalization roughly 5 years back. Most of our processes are digitized. Uh, we have enough and ample bots working in our organization. We use enough of P2P tool that we have in place. We do all the e-biddings. We use catalog procurement. We have artificial intelligence helping us in the field of procurement as we speak today. So the thing is, the organization like us, we have not invoked BCP during last COVID session because we were able to manage the requirement through our regular BAU during last wave. But now price increase is something which we have to cater to and address. How do we address those situations? I think since we have all the digital tools in our hand, we will be able to sail through this difficult situation, because what do we really need to do in this time is to quickly find out alternates, quickly find out where the product or services is available, and we should be in a position to source those product and services from the locations where they are available. And in this area, digital journey that we have had in last 5 years is helping us, because we are agile enough to quickly switch over the partners. Uh, if I have to find a partner, my artificial intelligence dip into the lot of data pools, and it throws multiple options that are available across the globe to us for any sort of requirement. If product price is going high from our existing supplier, we can definitely reach out quickly to alternate suppliers. We can figure out where the materials are available and we can approach those areas. So I think digital journey, the automation, the bots, the artificial intelligence that we have implemented is helping us in these difficult times to sail through. I think we are in a very good situation as of now, as far as addressing the challenges are concerned. But yes, uh, the challenges are getting grimmer day by day. With every passing day, the commodity prices are soaring, and it is going beyond imaginable limits. The steel, be it copper, be it PVC, any commodity is going way beyond. The main driver behind it is against demand and supply. See, demand is as it is, supply is getting curtailed because of various lockdowns that happened in across the globe. So yes, we are in challenging situations, but as everyone said, we'll sail through this. But the organization who are more digitally enabled, who has more tools in their hand, are better able to cope up with these situations. And I think at Tata Sky, we are very well equipped with all of those tools as of now.
Hey, good to hear that, Jaswinder, and some cheer to hear that we are improving just because of the crisis. So, if it's okay, I'll move to the second theme that we wanted to discuss. That is how digitization is changing the way procurement defines itself as an organization. If it's okay with everybody in the panel, I'll move the other way around. I'll start with Jaswinder, go to Subroto, then Vinay, and finally to Amitabh, if that's okay. So, Jaswinder, would you like to just start by saying how you are defining yourself in the organization? What is your in the light of digitization, which is inevitable now? How are you defining yourself?
So as far as digital journey is concerned, we are way ahead of this. We are now partnering with our internal stakeholders and
I wanted to. My question was how are you defining procurement differently because of the tools that you have available? So that was my question. So
yeah,
sure.
So that's what I'm answering.
Sure.
So what is happening is, since most of our procurement is on a digital front. So I'll give you example. So today 50% of my procurement is happening through a catalog. So rate cards are defined. So that portion of requirement is given back to my user teams, my internal stakeholders. So they go and they do their buying on their own. Where we are focusing more and more is with regard to partnering with them. Like Amitabh said that we need to be partner to those guys and help them achieving their KPIs. If I talk to my internal marketing team, how I help marketing to achieve their KPIs, how I help sales team to achieve their KPIs. This is only possible because, as I heard today, from our team, at least work of bots are really being done by bots. They are not being done by humans. So I am able to save good amount of time from my daily routine, and I am able to partner well with the stakeholders, which are my internal stakeholders, and I am able to deliver better results for them as far as procurement of their need is concerned. So it is the digital journey that is helping me to spend that time with them, because all routine mundane work is already being done by bots.
Great. Thank you, Jaswant. So I'll move to Subroto. I think Subroto already answered that question in some way in the previous round itself by talking about risk management and inflationary pressures, etc. But Subroto, I just want to quickly, since we are at the top of the hour, I'll request all the panelists to just give it to me rather a short answer so that we can attempt a third round if possible. So Subroto, what do you think? How would you define procurement's role in the light of all the digital tools that are available to you, automation, all the tools that Jaswinder spoke about, etc. So how would you like to define procurement for Bajaj consumer?
So I would say, a lot of work we have done in the past. Okay, what is really helping us in times like COVID, or is that the entire digitization that we did is helping us in the track and trace. Okay, so right now, for example, today we have a complete understanding of how much where material is lying across, starting from the vendor. So we did a lot of work in terms of transportation as well. Okay, so that also helps us to. So that is to one of the bigger challenges. That today one of the bigger challenges that there's a truck which is leaving from the vendor. That is to be the challenge, and you don't know where is the it's supposed to connect to the factory. What happened? The driver got sick or something happened. Okay, a lot of uncertainties were there till last year, so we have resolved those issues. Now we have a complete visibility from my vendor's level, what is the stock he's handling it, till my factory. So you have the complete trace in the entire supply chain now, starting from my uh, raw materials, packaging material to my finished goods. The entire thing is track and trace. So we exactly know what is happening. Okay, that's what digital.
So your influence in the supply chain, and your influence is across the supply chain, and you have it everything
Correct.
in your fingertips, and that's great. That's great.
Yeah. Primarily because of the fact that I also manage the planning part of it. So now from planning and procurement part of it, both put together, we have a complete trace. Because now what is the things are changing every day.
Great.
So I mean, starting as when even if I talk about the finished goods. So for example, my depot is open today, tomorrow it's closed. Okay, or some it is, there's so much uncertainty. Real-time data, having real-time data and the impact is very important right now. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Subroto. I'll move to Vinay. Vinay, how would you like to define procurement as in the light of all the tools that are available to you, and in the light of digital options available to you? How would you like to define it for yours in Blue Dart? How have you defined the role of procurement?
Basically, when very pointed answers I will give you. First thing that I look is where is it that my organization wants to grow? Where do I see myself in next 5 years? I have a product mix. I have an air product. I have a ground product. I have various products. What are the products? What is the product profile which is going to change at that point of time? And 5 years from now, if that is a product profile, then how is it that product procurement needs to change itself? Second thing, very clearly what procurement needs to do, or what we are doing, is that whatever we want to do, we want to improve the stakeholder experience. We would just not bring any automation, any digitization if it is not improving the stakeholder experience. And there are many use cases. I can against each and every procurement heading, I can give a use case as to, for example, spend analysis, for example, vendor interaction, generating RFQ, each and everything, there is an automation piece. But to what extent are we using it? It depends upon the kind of stakeholder experience which is expected. It is helping me in analytics. It is helping me in the way I am dealing with my vendors. And finally, I want to present procurement to each and every person in my organization as a service. I'm giving as a service, procurement as a service. I have SLAs signed with my various departments, which means that when you bring anything to me, how is it that I'm going to support you, in what scenarios that I'm going to support it. And all these things define what is the automation that I'm using and what is the automation that I'll be doing.
Awesome. Great thoughts, Vinay. So I'll move to Amitabh. Amitabh, one of the things that you mentioned in your first talk was how you're increasingly seeing procurement as a stakeholder in the respective departments achieving their goals. So if possible, please do answer the broader question and also let us know how any example you'd like to quote about how you have helped the particular department as procurement to achieve its strategic goals for the organization.
Yeah, so I will slightly differently touch on the possibilities of automation and digitalization and how it can improve the overall stakeholder experience, which I told you I will actually address in the second part. See, what is your customers expecting? You have to come from there. So it's not about a specific project, but on a day-to-day level, on a touch point. So first, I think some of the speakers spoke about it in terms of Subroto and on. One is important is traceability. Is your traceability of your equipment, finally, are you able to trace it to the final equipment or the process? Is the very important thing. So you need to have a traceability, because what procurement takes a decision? Procurement takes a buying decisions. In absence of right information or data, your decision will be only on price, and which is not at all a value creating decision in most of the cases. Price is not the thing that's it's a very old way of looking at procurement. The new way of looking at it is how much is the value creation. For example, one thing can be priced higher, but if it is giving you more life, is it giving you less quality losses? I think that's something which you need to go for it. So I think to do that analysis, traceability and the data is very most important. There's a large scope of automation that's something lies there. How do you trace each and every material for a large organizations like this? Second is intuitive customer experience. Everybody now expects within a B2B organization, not only in B2C, within the organization also, people are expecting more like an Amazon or a kind of an experience of buying experience. So this kind of buying experience to bring in, you need to have a very intuitive and a design thinking in place, wherein you put the customer at the center of the whole thing and design your processes and the value chain. Third, I think the speakers, talked about, there's an RPA, chatbots. I think these are something which will make your procurement process lean, efficient, and so that I think that's a very important and integral part of today's procurement journey. So if any organization will need that if they want to keep their overall procurement cost at 10. Another important thing, I think, which is very important for companies like which deal in very critical things and which are not replaceable by A, B, or C in the market, is how do you have a data interchange or exchange between two platforms or two organizations. For example, how the customer organization and the supplier organization are connected in terms of the data, so that your internal customers is confident that I will get this material delivered in certain time, so that he keeps his inventory at an optimum level. Otherwise, he will be piling on the inventory because he is unsure of your resilience of your supply chain and the vendor that is supplying. I think that's also a very important factor. And the fourth is many of the, I think some of the speakers said, commodities, which are the prices are increasing as one of the speakers told. On those things where the global dynamics play, I think there's a lot of scope on the in terms of how do you bring analytics model, how do you do better forecasting. I think that those are something which is I think there's a lot of automation or technology that comes into play. I think that's yeah.
Thanks, Amitabh. I think you also touched upon, some of my question in some way during your answer. Thank you for that. So we are at 4:10. So if all the panelists agree, we can have a short. We can extend by 5 to 10 minutes maximum to discuss the challenge that Hirok has thrown to us. Is everyone okay?
Yeah.
Or
I'm there so far. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Perfect.
Sorry, I need to drop out.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, Jasper, for joining. So we'll continue and we'll update you about the discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you. And so, Hirok, are you there in the still in the panel? Hirok? Oh yeah, yes, Hirok. So Hirok, I think I'd like to introduce you to my co-moderator. So yes, Hirok, would you like to jump in and start the discussion on the three challenges?
Sure. So look. Again, when I said the idea is not to kind of seek answers, idea is to have a directional engagement on what people think, because I personally believe that though this is very transactional as of now, given the situation, similar situations are going to happen in the future as well. We are irrevocably getting into a world where many such situations are going to happen. I mean, if you look at human history in the last 100 years, in the first 50, 60, in the turn of the century, 20th century, we probably had, 2 or 3 large such outbreaks, right? Including the Spanish flu. If you look at the last 20 years, ever since SARS happened, the Singapore SARS happened, we've at least had 5. SARS and MERS and Ebola and Zika and Nipah, and now COVID-19. Of course, nothing in this scale. So which means, going back to my math days, the differential rate of any of these things happening is increasing, right? And therefore you expect that these are going to be emerging challenges for society and for business. So if such a situation happens, how will DTDC handle it? How will Tata Sky handle it? How will a Bajaj handle it, etc.? And for the society, how will we handle such crazy emergency situations where in the 21st century, we are saying that people are dying because we can't ship oxygen. So directionally, if people can exchange ideas and say that, look, here is an idea which we should work on or something, that's it. And from a technology company, both Automation Anywhere, CMS, they could take some of those ideas and say, all right, from a technology perspective, this is what we can do in the overall scheme. That was my only objective of trying to.
Sure. So I'll throw the question first to the person from the logistics industry. Vinay, would you like to comment on Hirok's challenge and how you might want to go about addressing it? High level thoughts on how you might want to prepare yourself, because your logistics is also going to get completely challenged by the situation, isn't it? So that's
yeah. So basically, when we talk about all these kind of challenges, typically, we particularly, first of all, I'll talk about how we were prepared for it, because today the biggest problem is touchless. There should not be any touch. So we already had touchless kind of an operations wherein we used to deliver without any signature, or it was OTP sent and then customers acknowledging and accepting. But this is a specific case. Okay. I am talking about a general case, general scenario. 5 years down the line, 3 years down the line, 4 years down the line, how do we see our business? How can we change the processes? How can we change the organization structure to be much more simplistic? How can we change the entire supply chain to be simplistic? Today, what is happening is that we have complicated it too much. And due to all these complications, when these kind of challenges occur, we are not able to respond to it. When the supply chain cycle is seamless and much more simplistic architecture is there, I feel that we will be in a much better position to respond to all these kind of challenges. I'm not sure if I have very clearly answered whatever is in my mind. The point that I'm trying to make it is that we are trying to complicate everything.
Sure.
Let's not complicate it. Let's not complicate it. Let's keep it simplistic. If we keep the whole thing simplistic, and this will differ from industry to industry. In my industry, it can be different. In any other industry, it can be different. Now, somebody will come and say that, tell me, how do you do this? In my industry, how do you do this? So there are certain things which will not be possible to do in a certain industry. So we will have to rethink the entire model. How do we deliver? How do we, how do we fulfill the needs? If I am thirsty, I can have 10 needs. I can drink water, I can drink milk, I can also have a glass of wine. What exactly do I need? What exactly is my requirement, which can be fulfilled to best possible measure?
Thanks, Vinay. We'll take that thought further. So, Amitabh, would you like to weigh in on this challenge that is?
Yeah, so oxygen challenge, as Hirak mentioned, I think there is an important thing that has been overlooked or has been not in the part of the planning, is that there are demand center and there is a fulfillment that has to happen. So the oxygen production capacities or has not been planned in a manner wherein it can optimally deliver to the demand centers. So I would say like an hub and spoke kind of an arrangement that the supply chain industry knows. I think that kind of for example, if you have to supply oxygen to Delhi, then there has to be a center wherein the produces oxygen on and we have not seen an healthcare as an actually and we have left it to the healthcare to design for their own or small oxygen plant. But the ideally would be you take one demand center and then you can supply it in terms of either a pipeline or a shorter logistics, second leg logistics, which we call either in case you are going to deliver it through cylinders, etc., kind of a thing, or a pipeline. And you have to look at such creating hub and spoke kind of an arrangement all across the country. If you have to mitigate this problem, because it's highly impractical and it is logistically unviable to supply oxygen from 2,000 kilometers or 1,000 kilometers through on a sustainable basis. It's a crisis management that's happening. That's fair, I think, but I think that's where I will put it. Yeah.
Thanks, Amitabh. Subroto, would you like to put your risk management hat on and address it from a risk management point of view? Hirak's question: how would you? This oxygen is a current issue. And but there could be other shortages, there could be other supply chain challenges that emerge out of future situations. How would you look at it as procurement plus risk management profession?
Yeah. So 3 points I just want to make, Sunil. First is, of course, it again comes on today it is hospitals which are there's shortage because of oxygen shortage. Okay, tomorrow it can be any other industry. There's already an impact in the automobile industry because of the shortage of chips. Okay. So then again comes down to the main point of the BCP planning. Okay, that's point number one. Point number two, see, if you see the logistics cost in India, okay, it's almost 14% of our GDP. Okay, compared to any developed countries where it is 9%. Okay, that's primarily because of two reasons: because of poor infrastructure that we have. Okay, and we don't have in terms of roads, in terms of railways, and the huge dependence we as a country have on roadways. Okay, if you see the current example, oxygen cylinders being moved by railways. Okay, if you see the percentage of goods which are being moved by railways across the world, this is much higher compared to what we do in India because our networks are already congested. Okay, so that's also the primary reason that it takes more time to move goods from one place to another place. In terms of that is much higher in India compared to anywhere in the developed world. Secondly, our reliance on the railways is so huge that we are still not developing or using the railways to the large extent possible. Okay, so my two things is that yes, I'm pretty hopeful that we have seen some changes post GST in terms of reduction of the TAT that has happened because of the time the vehicles have to wait on checkpoint that is reduced. Now I'm pretty hopeful that even with the there's a two freight corridors which are coming up. One is the east freight corridor, one is the west freight corridor. Okay, partially it is opened, but once that is open, I think significant amount of goods are going to be moved from through those railway freight corridors. Okay, that will help us in two ways. First, it will save costs. It will save transit time. Okay, so these are the two things. Even the better infrastructure, for example, the Bombay Delhi Expressway. Okay, if once it is completed, that will also take 2 days or 1 day time to come for a vehicle to move the goods.
Great. Thanks a lot, Subroto, and thanks Amitabh, thanks Vinay. What I'll do is, I'll quickly hand off back to Hirak for any concluding remarks that he wants to make, and then to Neha. I think we had a very interesting discussion. I don't think we'll have enough time to take questions, thanks to the fact that we decided to, stretch the discussion a little more. But I think it is worth the extra time. I really enjoyed it personally. So Hirak, would you like to conclude and pass on to Neha, and and thank our panelists for.
So thank you very much for this discussion. I do realize that by doing what I did, I may have kind of thrown the plan a bit awry, but I think the discussion was very interesting, and it was very engrossing. Simply put, if you just see the kind of comments the people were putting, etc., which means that people were very, very engaged for the discussion, and that's just kudos to all the panelists. As I said, that it will be great to have an idea board created, and if people can constantly give ideas, I've always believed that great economies are created out of some very strong ideation. The United States of America is the greatest example of an economy created out of ideation. And so if everybody wants to participate in those idea boards, we can facilitate that and have newer and newer ideas which we can take to the market. So thank you very much for bearing with all my histrionics, and thank you for making the time for today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Neha, over to you. Thanks, Hirak. Thanks.
Thank you to our wonderful panel. Thanks, Hirak. But Sunil, you are not getting the leave now. You have to stay with me for 2 more minutes. We will have our final poll questions. Can we have the final poll questions, please? I request everybody to please participate in this poll.
They can choose more than one, I think, right? Yes. Yeah, okay.
So Sunil, which was your most favorite part of the panel? And till people are answering this question, I would really want to know that what you really enjoyed the most.
The procurement is very close to my heart because I started my career as an ERP consultant.
Yes.
And I, for two reasons, I think procurement is a very is a very strategic function for the organization because they are the ones who can actually impact the bottom line in the organization. It's a very strong function, and the other part is that when we do talk to our customers about automation, most of the use cases and the impact use cases are in procurement. So those are the points that makes me very, very fond of procurement as a function, and I really enjoyed it. I believe that CMS IT and with our partners and the eminent people who have joined us today, etc., we can really make a difference in the function itself. It was a very interesting conversation.
Awesome. So let's see how are the results looking. Can we have the results, please, on the screen? So these are the results, Sunil, and are they in line with what discussions you have or what you have been seeing in the market?
I think so. I would say that the improved quality and compliance is not surprisingly the biggest one, especially because many of the procurement, our customers, potential automation customers, are from the BFSI segment, and where increasingly it's going to be increasingly it's compliance that matters. But I'm surprised to see it in a procurement panel. So So again, I think in procurement also compliance is increasingly.
Yeah, and that is a favorite topic between you and me, and we keep talking about compliance.
Just one comment. Sorry about this. On this result, I remember the same result from the Mondays event which we had, which had
for BFSI,
financial services sector people more from the business side. Very interestingly, high customer satisfaction percentage is much higher in the supply chain side of it in the polls than the financial services sector business side of it, which basically means that the supply chain and logistics folks are saying that a high customer satisfaction is very important. Not so many people in the business side have said this. Yes, that's what data shows. So this is very interesting.
Very interesting. Yes, little surprising also.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
It also depends on the profile of the team that we are, I think, taking the poll from. Sorry to say, but it is like our fears sometimes speak more than we do.
Yes.
Yeah, nice thought. I think that is on a nice thought like that. I think if Neha, is there any other agenda, or we can let the panel?
I have the final feedback question come up here, and as people fill feedback, I have a few people to thank. So thank you, Sunil. Thank you so much for being such a wonderful panel host. Can we have everybody's feedback question here? Yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Thank you to our wonderful panel. Thank you, Hirak. Thank you, Yash. And thank you to our wonderful audience for being with us, spending this 1.5 hours with us. I request everybody to please stay safe. These are difficult times, times which we have never seen before, very hard times. So I request everybody to please stay safe and keep up your automation journey. And as Hirak said, we will have something set up where people can post ideas. So please watch out for that space, and we will be reaching out to you. Thank you so much for your time. And one last thing, and last set of people which I want to thank is our backend team and Automation Anywhere's backend team. These two teams are not in front, but they have really worked hard. So many people have challenges at home. Despite of that, this was made possible. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day ahead. With this.
And I'll also like to say that we'll respond to the questions in person.
Very important point that we have noted all the questions. We did not get a time to really answer them. We have noted all the questions, and we will reach out to each one of you with the answers, and all your answers will be with you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Have a nice evening, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Really enjoyed the session. Thank you.
Thanks.